Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Old Time Rock and Roll. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Today's Thanksgiving. I know it's not celebrated all over the world, mainly just the United States and Canada. But for anybody celebrating it today, happy Thanksgiving, and let's think about what we're grateful for, because there is a lot to be grateful for, including old time rock and roll. So anyway, enough of that. So today I'm featuring song number 2682 on my list of my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era, and that one is Over Under Sideways Down by the Yardbirds. Um, and This was released in 1966, and it went to number 13 in the USA. I think it went a little higher in England. I'm not sure how high, but anyway, before I get into the Yardbirds, and by the way, it was featured on their album entitled what was it called? Roger the Engineer. So that was the album it was on, and um, here's a picture of the Yardbirds around the time they recorded it. But before I talk about them, I'm going to talk a little bit about the song Over, Under, Sideways, Down. It's an interesting song, I think. I like it. It's one of those kind of, British invasion songs, kind of a rebel song. He's singing about, there's a couple lines of the song. When I was young, people spoke of immorality. They'd say things like, uh, all the things they said were wrong and what I want to be. So I think that's interesting. That was a lot of what was going on in the 60s. A lot of the teenage rebellions were all about, the older generation trying to impose all its views of morality on the younger generation. Of course, a lot of them end up rebelling, and for good reason, I think, because of Vietnam and just because of a lot of changing attitudes in our society. And I think rock and roll epitomized a lot of that. So in that sense, I would call the Yardbirds a true rock and roll band. And I also like their music. Their music was kind of, psychedelic. I think it was sort of the beginning of psychedelia. You can hear some of the Indian instruments in the background. But I really like them, and I guess I just want to, like I said, I want to say. I already said the two lines in the song that kind of resonate with me. Another thing I just learned today, I looked this up. Well, another thing interesting about this song. There's two things I learned today about this song. First of all, it was written by all the members. All the members got credit for the song. There were five members at the time. I don't remember the names all, but uh, another thing about this song was inspired by "Rock Around the Clock" by Bill Haley and his Comets. I was kind of surprised to learn this too, because that a lot of people consider "Rock Around the Clock" the first song of the rock era. It certainly was a rock song, and it came out very early in the rock era, 1955. I think nowadays it's not considered the first rock and roll song, though I don't know which one it is. I've heard other candidates like Shaboom and Earth Angel and maybe Mr. Sandman. I don't know. But anyway, enough of that. Another thing, there is an interpretation of the meaning of this song. I looked this up too. Uh, yeah, one theory is it was inspired by a concept in Good Shepherd's Lutheran's Church rock and roll theology. I don't know anything about this. I just looked this up today. Interesting idea. I guess I should check out Good Shepherd's rock and roll theology if I'm not religious at all, at least not in the traditional sense. And I don't belong in any religious organizations right now, even though I had Sunday school and I went to temple when I was growing up and I even got confirmed. I've never believed in mainstream religion, least of all the Bible. I hope none of you guys are upset at me for saying that. But anyway, the interpretation was not only was it inspired by this Church of Rock and Roll theology, but they also said that it was a misunderstanding of the true meaning of the Bible. In particular, their talk about the meaning of domain. And I haven't read that part of the Bible. I don't think I ever will. I think I've read enough of the Bible I ever want to read for the rest of my life. God can strike me down if he's not happy with that, but that's just how it is. Anyway, I don't. That's not my interpretation of this song. It's obviously a Teenage Rebellion song, and they do sing the sign, "When will it end? When will it end?" And I think that's a really interesting line. And I don't know if he's singing about the Armageddon. I don't think he is. I think he's maybe talking about when will the end of all the tension between the younger and older generations end, when will we all just live in peace and be happy with what really matters in life. At least that's my interpretation. And I guess there's just one last thing about I want to say about that line, when will it end? It reminds me of a scene in this movie, a very popular movie called The Truman Show that I think came out in the 90s. I don't know the exact year. I really like this movie with Jim Carrey. It was the first movie I ever saw with Jim Carrey that I liked him in. I didn't like him in any of his wacky comedies before this one. I really didn't like Mask, and I didn't like Dumb and Dumber. And I never saw the sequel to Dumb and Dumber because I thought the first one was dumb enough. But no, I mean, Jim Carrey, this was his first serious role in any movie. I think he did a really excellent job in this movie. And in case you guys haven't seen it, you know, he lives in this fictional city. He lives in this make believe world. There's this whole world, like a Hollywood, giant Hollywood studio in the near future that's created for him. He's born on the TV show, and he lives his whole life until he's about 30 on this TV show without even realizing it's not the real world. Finally, he does, and then gets out of it. But there was an interesting scene in this movie when he's a teenager. He saw, you know, he meets this woman. I may have met him in college. I can't remember, but he meets a woman either in high school or college. You know, pretty young woman, and she's a student too, and she's wearing this button that says, "How's it gonna end?" Which kind of reminds me of the line, "When will it end?" and over, under, sideways, down. And you know, the interesting thing about this scene, I don't know if I want to give away the whole movie. I already talked a lot about it, but you know, this was a slogan of the TV show. I guess everybody was working on the TV show, and a lot of people were watching it. They were all asking themselves, "How's the show going to end? How's the Truman Show going to end?" So she was wearing this button, and you know, Truman, since he didn't know he was on a TV show, he thought this was a real world. He thought she was just a '60s rebel wearing this button, and you know, he even said to her, "Sometimes I wonder that myself," you know, and you know, she tried to warn him it wasn't the real world, but I guess she, you know, eventually she gets escorted out by a guy who pretends to be her father who's angry at her while they're on the beach, you know, saying she's crazy. And, you know, I don't believe we live in a fake world like Truman. I don't believe I do, but I think there's a lot of things about our world that are way, way too fake. So it's kind of a metaphor for society, I think. I wish we'd all wake up and look at the real world around us. You know, I mean, it's nice to dream, it's nice to be an idealist, it's also nice to believe in a lot of lies that people tell you. But ultimately, we all have to face reality. And I think we just have to make the most of the reality we live in. At least that's my philosophy. And here's a scene, the end, the last scene in the Truman Show when he finally discovers that the world isn't real and he manages to sail across the fake sea even though they try to kill him. He manages to get to the door to the real world, which kind of looks like heaven. I mean, maybe that's a metaphor for God in heaven. But I think it's a pretty good one. You know, the guy who runs the show, maybe I'm already spoiling the movie, but the guy who runs the show, you know, he kind of, it seems like God. He's telling Truman, "You're on a TV show." Finally, he tells him the truth, but he wants him to stay on the show. That says there's no more reality in the real world than it is in this one. You're better off staying in this my fake city I've created. And you know, he's thinking about it for a few minutes, and then finally, you know, the director says, "Well, say something, God damn it, you're on TV." And so what he says is his famous line when he thought he was a real world. He said, "In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night." So I think I'll leave you guys with that. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, and happy Thanksgiving to those who celebrate it. Stay in the real world, and thank you for watching. You guys rock, and I'll see you guys next time.